Well, hello everyone. This is Danny from Deep South Homestead. On our porch time talk today, guys, I'm taking a break right now, finishing up the tile in the bathroom. The grout has been put on. I'm waiting for it to dry so I can go in and begin to sponge it off. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to come out and just sit down on the porch here at the cabin and just visit with you for a while. You know, that's always something that people used to love to do, is visit all the time, and something that we don't hardly ever see anymore. So, I mean, that's what I want to kind of focus on a little bit today, is living a simple lifestyle really achievable? You know, I mean, that's something we have to stop and think about. Is it something that we can really achieve in the world that we live in today? I mean, let's stop and think about, we have 5G technology coming in everywhere. People are jet setting all over the world. You know, you want to go somewhere, you can just get in a plane and you can fly across the ocean if you want to another country, or you know, I've seen people actually, and I know I have friends who actually, the husband came home from work one afternoon and his wife didn't say anything to him, and he got up the next morning and she said it was his birthday and he wasn't going to work that day. And she said, "Get in the car. I'm going to take you out for your birthday." And she drove him to the airport in another city. He goes, "What are we doing?" She says, "Don't say anything. You just come with me." She had a plane ticket for them. They boarded an airplane. They flew out to Denver, Colorado from here in Mississippi, and got off the plane, went to a favorite restaurant that they had been to years ago. They ate dinner and got on the plane and flew back home before that afternoon. I mean, guys, this is the world we live in, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you've got the ability to do that, that's great if that's what you love doing. But is it possible with 5G technology, AI, computers, you know, the ability to jet set in the world anywhere, all the modern conveniences in the world today, is it possible to be able to live a simple life and be able to not be caught up in all this stuff? And now the answer is yes, it can be done, but it's going to all depend on the individual. You know, the Bible plainly tells us, talking about the end times and the end time system that's in place, it says, "Come out from among her, my people, and be ye separate." In other words, we're not to be caught up in all this modernism and wickedness that goes on in the society and the world that we live in today. The Lord said we're to come out from among that and to be separate. And to be separate, if you look it up, it means to be different. It means to not be a partaker of those type things. And I'm going to tell you, in the world we live in today, that's pretty tough for some people. And a lot of it has to do with just really where you live. If you live in a city or a suburban area where there's an HOA, or if you live in a gated community and all this kind of stuff, it's going to be pretty hard for you to live a very simple life, because there's things that go on around you that you have absolutely no control over. You're on a tiny little piece of property inside of a massive subdivision type area that's gated, and I've built houses in those areas, and I've seen the way people live like sardines in a can. I mean, some people do it and they're okay with it. I'm not one of them who can do it. I like my space and my freedom. I like to be able to walk out the door and shoot my gun if I want to, or to just walk over here in the woods and just, you know, and just be alone with God if I want to. And when you live wall-to-wall houses, and I rented one time while I was building one of my homes, and I had to live that way for like 6 months, and I like to went nuts. So I do understand it. But it's very difficult if you live in that situation. Now, people who live rural and have always lived rural, and a lot of them have bought property, or they have property that's been handed down to them. For people like that, it's not that hard for them to live a more simple, less complicated life, because they've been used to living in a rural environment. Things haven't been handy to them. People who live in town have conveniences of the stores just right across the street. You know, you're 3 to 4 minutes from anything, or 5 to 10 minutes from anything. If you live out in the country like we do, you know, you're talking about if you're going to go to town and come back and do anything or buy anything or purchase something, you know, to that nature, or browse and look at anything, you're talking about a couple of hours of your day is just gone. And to just go pick up material from a lumber yard, you know, whatever, you know, you got a couple hours of your day that's just gone. And plus you have the drive time there, the drive time back, the gas, the wear and tear on a vehicle. You know, when you live a rural life, you have to take all of these things into consideration, because they are, you know, it costs a little bit more money to live rural. You know, people always go, well, living in the city sure is expensive. Well, yes it is. And living a rural life in the country can be just as expensive if you do not know how to lay out everything that you need to do. Us, for instance, if I have a, let's say I have a water line to crack or something, you know, starts leaking or something like that, one of my faucets start leaking on the outside the house, a hose bib or something like that, or a fitting breaks or something, a PVC fitting or something to this nature. When I go to town, I don't buy just one fitting. I don't buy just one faucet. You know, I don't buy just a couple of pieces of something to make this job work. I buy in bulk. You know, if I need a 3/4 inch PVC elbow, I'll buy anywhere between 5 and 10 of them, and I'll bring them back and put them in my shop in a specific location. Or the same thing with faucets. If I have an outside faucet that starts leaking, I will pick up 3 or 4 of them and bring them back, and I'll store them in my shop. That way, the next time it happens, I don't have to make a trip to town. I've already done it, because if you live in rural, it's going to happen again. It's just a matter of time. Now, sometimes it might be a year down the road. Sometimes it might be 2 or 3 years down the road. But when it happens, I can go to my shop, and there is all the stuff that I need. You know, same thing with breakers. If I'm doing electrical work, or wire nuts, electrical tape, I mean, you name it. Anything like that, nails. I used to buy, when I was in the construction business, I didn't buy just one box of gun nails when I was building houses. I bought a pallet of nails. When you bought a pallet of nails, you get a free gun with it. So therefore, I always had good guns. I always have plenty of nails. You go in my shop now, I've got enough nails to nail together this side of the world, just stacked up in there, because I never did use them all. And now, when I do a project, I don't have to go buy nails, because I have plenty of them. I've done so much electrical work in my life that little parts and pieces left over from electrical stuff I have stored in my shop. I don't have to go to town to get something if something happens here at the homestead. Our cabin that I'm sitting at right here, a large portion of this cabin was taken out of my shop. Lots of lumber, lots of beams and posts and rafters, and I mean, stuff like that has been stored up in my shop for years of doing construction work, electrical circuits and boxes and breakers and wire, and guys, all this kind of stuff, it just comes from years of just not throwing stuff away. That's because when you live in a rural environment, you learn to set things to the side. And people go, well, I just don't like all that junk and clutter. And you throw it away and you go buy it again, and you know, and you got to drive into town and get it. And people wonder why they cannot afford things that live rural. It all has to do with how well you prepare for the unseen things that lie ahead. You know, that's part of rural living. If I'm doing a project here in the garden and I need 5 or 6 steel fence posts, or T-posts they call them, and 2 or 3 cattle panels to go in there, when I go to the store to get that stuff, I buy in bulk. I'll tell them, because they come 5 posts a bundle, and if I need 5 of them, I'll say, you know what, give me 2 or 3 bundles. Because I might have another project, or I might have a cow bend a fence post over or something, and the cattle panels, I'm already there. Instead of getting 2 or 3 cattle panels, I'll tell them, say, well, give me, I don't know, give me 4 or 5 of them. And it always turns out I need those things, and I didn't have to pull a trailer back to town again to get them in the future. You know, and people go, well, I don't have that kind of money to spend. Guys, it's all about saving. It's all about setting money aside every week to have for those things when it comes along. You know, if you're living from day to day and you are spending all your money, yeah, it's going to be very difficult to do that. My daddy always raised me. He said, son, never let your notes on anything be more than what you make in 1 week. He said, because if you do, you're doomed to live from hand to mouth and possibly fail in your life financially. And so I have kept that theory. My dad had a 4th grade education, but yet he was a very wise individual. And I've always followed those rules, and it has always paid off for me. Not to make any note that I have more than what I earn in 1 week. And that has been one of the wisest things my daddy could have ever told me, because it has blessed me financially more than I could ever imagine. Because you learn to live within your means. People who can live within their means are people who can live a simple life. Now, Wanda and I, we have the off-grid cabin here, and we get so many comments. Why in the world would you build an off-grid cabin on the same property that you have this big, beautiful home that is totally furnished with anything you can imagine? Why would you build a cabin off in the woods back there behind your house with no electricity? Well, guys, when you do YouTube like we do, it just gets, you can have a burnout. It gets under your skin. Everything about your life is always on a video or a camera somewhere. It doesn't matter what you're doing. There's a camera usually looking at you at some point. There's cameras running almost every hour of the day somewhere, catching some kind of footage so that you can put it up. And after a while, you edit, and you're always in the studio. You're always trying to clip stuff together. You're trying to find this footage to go with this video and that footage to go with that video. Trying to back it up on hard drives. So you're trying to do this, it takes hours and hours and hours to make all this stuff come to fruition. And to be able to do it on a daily basis like we do. And that is a job, let alone the homestead. Raising cows, raising chickens, raising gardens, canning, putting up greenhouses, taking care of greenhouses, doing the projects and chores, the digging the potatoes, turning soil, amending soil, putting up fences, building new fences, clearing land. All these kind of things have to fit inside that time schedule. And the off-grid cabin over here gives Wanda and I a place to come in the afternoon. Now, if we had to drive somewhere to go to it, we would not do it, because we can't leave the farm, because we have animals that have to be tended to. And guys, it gives us a place on the same homestead to come over here where there's no electricity from an outside power source. We have no internet over here, no cell phone service, none of that stuff. And we can go inside these doors or sit on this porch, and we can just look around at the woods here around us. We can hear the birds singing. The cicadas are rattling in the background. I can see the cows in the pasture. I'm overlooking the pond down here. I see the greenhouses in the distance over there. The breeze is blowing through the trees here. And it's quiet, it's peaceful. And guys, there's no internet here. I have a camera sitting in front of me right now, which I will take back to the main house, and everything will be done at the main house. And then Wanda and I can come over here in the afternoon and say, you know what, let's just spend the night. There's no refrigerator running, there's no TV, there's no air conditioning unit running, there's no heating unit running. If it's cool, we turn on a little fan with a little power station to blow on us. We have a power station hooked up in here that's going to be hooked up to some solar panels here shortly that runs ceiling fans and stuff like that to keep a little circulation of air going. If it's a winter time, we have a fire going in the fireplace and we have 2 recliners sitting in front of it. We just kick back in the recliners and watch the fire till we fall asleep. And when we wake up, one of us wakes up, we wake the other one up and we go get in the bed and we sleep all night. The cabin has been soundproofed. I had to do that because we have neighbors that have barking dogs, and so I soundproofed the cabin. You can't hear anything outside once you go inside, and it's like total silence, and our minds can relax, and we rest so good. So it's a blessing to have this here. That's why we do that. And yes, this allows us, even in the midst of turmoil, even in the midst of all the modernization around us, this allows us to live a more simple life. We choose to do certain things to make our life more simple. We choose to raise our own food rather than going to a grocery store and buying it. Now, we do buy staples from the grocery store. We can't make salt here. We'll pick up a little bit of sugar every now and then if we need it, or Wanda needs some dishwashing liquid, or toilet paper, or paper towels, or something like that. Commodities, I call them. But you won't see us going to a grocery store buying hamburgers, hamburger meat, bell peppers or anything like that. No sweet potatoes or no canned goods or anything to that nature, because we raise all that stuff here ourselves. We choose to do that because it's healthier for us to do that here, and it allows us to live a more simple life. Now, we'll raise our own corn from the Danny corn that I created years ago. We grind it into cornmeal. We grind it into grits. We grind it into corn flour. This type of stuff we do on our own. We take our sugar cane. We make our own syrup. We have a cane press. We turn around with a lawnmower. We pull it, and we don't have a mule, but we use the lawnmower to do it with, and we press the juice out, and we got an evaporator. We cook up our cane syrup, and we store it up in the pantry for a year at a time, so we don't have to buy any syrup, anything like that, and it gives us the joy of making our own stuff and living a much simpler lifestyle. We have wood heat in our home in the big house. We have wood heat over here. We cut our own firewood. We split our own firewood. It gives us exercise. It gives us peace of mind knowing that if the power goes down for some reason and it's frigid cold outside, we're still going to be warm because we have stocked up and living a much simpler lifestyle. We do not travel. We don't go on vacations because of our homestead here. We live right here at our home. I can't figure out why anybody would spend $200,000 and $300,000 on a home and property and just be in a rat race to go on a vacation and get away from it. If I'm going to spend that kind of money on something, then it's going to be my forever place. It's going to be the place where I'm happiest at. It's going to be a place I don't want to get away from. It's going to be a place I want to get to, So this is just our mentality of life. And whether or not you can live a simple life will totally depend on your mentality, your location, your ability to be able to do the things that you do. Do you have the mentality to live a more simple life? Most people can't do it simply because they have a problem with getting bored. I don't understand that. I live on a farm and a homestead here. Our problem is there's not enough hours in a day to get everything done. And yet I hear people all the time saying, gosh, I'm just so bored. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm sitting here going, man, what must that be like to sit and say, I don't have anything to do? I've got enough stuff to do. If I had 36 hours in a day, I couldn't get it all in it. I mean, it's a constant thing. Wanda is constantly on me, Danny, we've got to slow down. We've got to stop. And I told her, I said, Wanda, there's not enough time to get these things done before one season's over and another season kicks in. it's one of those things. It's just the life we choose to live. And it is a lot of work, but at the end of the day, it is very rewarding. The scripture says that the rest of a working man is very good. You know, it's very, very good. And I can attest to that because Wanda, I'll give you, for instance, today I was laying tile over here at the cabin this morning in the bathroom. I had a few pieces left to lay around the toilet. We took it up and I had cut them and was actually laying them in. And I had them ready to grout once the thin set had dried. And I told her, I said, I looked at my watch and I said, it's 11 o'clock. I said, I'm not going to be able to come to the house to eat. I said, can you bring it over here to me? Can you go fix something and bring it over here? Because I'm in the middle of this tile and I had a bucket of grout mixed. I said, I can't just waste this grout. I have to keep going. And she said, yeah. So I kept grouting the bathroom floor and I finished. And of course you have to wait like 20 minutes or so, and then you have to go back and you have to sponge it off. And while she was gone, the 20 minutes had went and come, and I had went in there and I'd sponged off the first time, and then you have to let it wait like 2 hours, and you have to do the final sponging. And I went and sit down in my recliner and kicked it back there, waiting on her to get back with lunch. And the next thing I know, she says, "Wake up!" You know, I was wore out because I had kept pushing myself to get this done because I had all this stuff mixed. And I told her, I said, "I didn't even hear you drive up." She says, "No, because you were sound asleep." And God, that's how peaceful and how restful it was to be able to just sit down where there's no noise. I fell asleep instantly, and it was very rewarding to get that power nap in. We was able to eat lunch and sit out here on the porch for a little while, and I looked at my watch and I told her, I says, "Well, it's time for me to go do my final sponging." And I just finished that just a few minutes ago, and when I quit, I cleaned up everything, and I said, "Well, I'm going to sit down and do porch time," and she went back to the house. And guys, that's what it's like living a more simple lifestyle. You know, a lot of people go, "Man, that sounds like a lot of work to me." Well, doing things at the cabin here, because my background is in construction, and I'm retired, have been retired for many years, this is not work to me. Laying tile in a floor is not work to me. It's a joy to me to be able to do it in our off-grid cabin here. And now that I have it done, I sit back and I look at it and I'm like, wow, this is beautiful. God has really blessed us with this. And you know, and it makes living this simpler life even more rewarding when you see the fruits of your labor. You know, that's what I always try to tell people. You know, in the scripture says, Solomon says that there's nothing better than that a man should enjoy the fruits of his labor. I mean, when Solomon says there's nothing better, I mean, you have to stop and think, there's nothing. He says nothing is better than that you can enjoy the fruits of your labor. And that's the point I was trying to make about living a more simple life and paying $200,000 and $300,000 for a home place and going off and leaving it to go somewhere else to relax. The scripture says there's nothing better than that you can enjoy the fruits of your labor. And the problem in the world today is we try to get away from it. I don't understand it. I don't want to understand it. I just know that this is my place of haven. It's my place of rest. It's a place where I love to be. I would be perfectly content, Wanda and me both, if we just never left here at all. If I never had to go back to town again, I would be perfectly happy. And I know this is going to sound really sad, but there's some truth to this. I think I could still be perfectly happy if I never seen another human being. You know, I mean, I've been burnt so many times by people in my life that I've tried to help and be good to, that I really don't care if I see another person. You know, you can ask my children, or my sister used to say this, really, she said that they used to say, Danny could really be a hermit real easy. And guys, I'm being honest with you, I probably could. Now Wanda not so much as me, because Wanda needs to see her family ever so often and stuff like that. Most of my family's gone, have passed away. I don't have a lot of relatives around. I still have my daughters, you know, and my brother. But for the most part, most of my family's way away. I don't have any family right here where I'm at. And I'm not in any family member's house all the time. Wanda's family's way away from here. So we're not at her family's place. We have to make a really concerted effort to drive a long distance to go to her family's place. So things like that don't really affect us a lot. And you have to get to that point to be able to live a more simpler lifestyle and be able to be content. That's another thing. You have to learn to be content with the life that you're living. The problem with most people today is that I run into is that they're not content. They're always looking for something else. It's kind of like the picture you see with the horse standing waist deep in grass, and he's looking across the fence, and the grass is only like 4 inches deeper on the other side, and the sign says the grass always looks greener on the other side. Or you see a mule or a cow standing there, he's eating grass, and he looks across the fence, and he sees this deep, luscious green grass on the other side, and it says the same thing. It says, you know, the grass always looks greener on the other side, but what they're not telling you is there's a cesspool right underneath it, you know. And that's the way life is with many people. It seems like with many people that life always looks better on the other side. You know, they always look out and they think that just looks a little better than what I have. If I just had that, or if I just had a new vehicle, or if I just had this, you know, things would be so much better. And there is an element of truth to some of that. You know, if you live in a little small lot and there's people all around you, and you're saying, if I just had a bigger place with more land, I think it would be more content. And I would totally agree with that. I don't have a problem with that. I think that would be probably accurate. So it's not always bad to say that the grass looks greener on the other side of the fence. We just have to be careful with what we're looking at when we see it. We have to look to see, is it a cesspool underneath that grass that's making it so green? You know, we have to take time to survey the situation and see, is things actually better on the other side of the fence? Would living on the other side of the fence make my life more enjoyable? Would it make my life more sustaining? Would it make my life much simpler? You know, Wanda and I talk about this all the time. Deep South Homestead is a thriving place here. It is a constant 24-hour-a-day moving, working place. And we sit and talk sometimes, what would it be like if we had 100 acres of land with trails on it that we could jump in our Ranger and ride around on these trails and go and plenty of deer. We don't have any deer here hardly. The deer only come out at night, and they're coming from another piece of property. They're not even on our property. You know, what would it be like to be able to just take the Ranger and ride around on a property and see deer grazing in a field of ours, or to see a big lush pasture out there with cows in it? You know, what would it be like to do that? Because we don't have that here. I mean, we have cows and we have some small fields, but we have to rotationally graze constantly. We have to be moving them from here to there to here to there, because we're only on 10 acres of land, and there's a lot on this 10 acres of land. So would us owning 100 acres be more sustainable and much more peaceful than living on a small 10-acre place that's really rough? I can't answer that because I don't know. Knowing me, I would take 100 acres and have it just as bumping and going as I do 10 acres, you know. So I can't really say that because it's who I am. Yet I love coming to the cabin and relaxing. And guys, it is possible to live a simpler life in the mad world that we live in. When God says, come out from among them and be ye separate, it can be done. Wanda and I don't watch TV. We have a television. The only reason we keep a television is if a hurricane's coming in, because our satellite won't work during the weather. We turn the TV on to watch the local news to see where the hurricane's at, what's happening. That's the only time that TV ever gets turned on. We just don't watch TV, you know. I mean, a lot of people have to have a TV going constantly all the time. And Wanda and I have trained ourselves not to turn the TV on at all. And that has been a really big plus for us, because by the TV not running, it has permitted us to get much more accomplished. And it has allowed us to actually rest a lot better at night, because our mind's not boggled with things that we see on a TV constantly. We're not constantly hit with all these commercials and stuff like that that stay locked up in your brain, you know, while you're trying to sleep. So guys, I guess porch time today, that's the point I'm trying to get across, is we really should be striving to live a much more simpler life, away from all the electronics. I mean, it's all right. We do YouTube. We watch YouTube a lot. Mainly for me, it's early in the morning. I don't hardly ever look at the computer during the day. Wanda does a lot of editing, and I have to do some editing occasionally. But my big thing is, you know, when I get up in the morning, I'll turn the internet on, and I go through our videos, and I try to get as much done as I can in the short amount of time that I have before I have to be out to cook breakfast and then be out the door to get my day going. But guys, I don't let it doesn't overtake me. It doesn't rule my life watching YouTube. I know I make YouTube videos for people to watch. I try to make them educational, and I try to do videos like Porch Time Today that are encouraging, Porch Time videos that teach us that, hey, we need to slow down. And sometimes for me, slowing down is watching a good YouTube video. I watch a YouTube channel called Rural Heritage. It's about all the old-fashioned ways of mules and the cabin building and things in the mountains and stuff like this, which really I love. And I'll watch that for maybe a 30 to 40 minutes, and then I turn it off, and I'm good. You know, that's my extent of YouTube watching, other than a few YouTube channels I'll watch their videos. And other than that, I pretty much just try to chill out most of the day and just do my work, and I don't think about a lot of stuff outside of that. I try to stay out of as much stuff as I can globally. I do study up on some things. I keep up with the United Nations, what's going on there. I try to keep up with all the laws that are being changed, the executive orders, and Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. I do try to keep up with all this stuff. And guys, I do the best I can to keep y'all informed about as much stuff as I find out. So let's live a simpler life, and let's enjoy our lives, guys. Thank you for sitting here with me today on Porch Time and just enjoying this nice time together. Thank you, guys, from Deep South Homestead.